Hey guys, some of you are here. I'm going to pick up where I left off on Breaking Dawn. Jacob, who I kept saying goodbye to me over and over, kept coming back when I needed him. Jacob, who I've wounded so many times it was criminal. But when I hurt him again, in the worst way yet, he stayed with me despite everything, and now all he asks is that I stay for him. But it was so dark here I couldn't see either of their faces. Nothing seemed real, that it was hard not to give up. I kept pushing against the black, though almost a reflex. I wasn't trying to lift it. I was just resisting, not allowing it to crush me completely. I wasn't Atlas to the black felt as a heavy planet. I couldn't shoulder it. All I could do was not let it entirely obliterated. Not be entirely obliterated. It was some sort of pattern in my life. I've never been strong enough to deal with the things outside of my control, to attack the enemy or outrun them, to avoid the pain. Always human and weak. The only thing I've been able to do was keep going, endure, survive. But it had been enough up to this point. It would have been enough for today. I would endure this until help came. I knew Edward would be doing everything he could. He would not give up, and neither would I. I held against the blackness, non-existence at bay by inches. But it wasn't enough, though. That determination, as the time grounded on and on, the darkness gained by tiny sixteenths of my inches. I needed something more to draw strength from. I couldn't even pull Edward's face into view, not Jacob's, not Alice's, not Rosalie's, Charlie's, or Renee's, or Carlisle's, or Esme's. Nothing. It terrified me. I wondered if it was too late. I felt myself slipping. There was nothing left to hold on to. No, I had to survive this. Edward was depending on me. Jacob, Charlie, Rosalie, Carlisle, Renee, Renesmee. And then, though I still couldn't see anything, I could feel something like phantom limbs. I imagined I could feel my arms again. In them something small and hard and very, very warm. My baby, my little nudger. I'd done it against all odds. I'd been strong enough to survive Renesmee, to hold on until she was strong enough to live without me. The spot of heat in my phantom arms felt so real I clutched it closer. It was exactly where my heart should be. Holding tight to the warm memory of my daughter, I knew that I would be able to fight the darkness as long as I needed to. The warmth beside my heart got more and more real, warmer and warmer, hotter. The heat was so real, it was hard to believe that I was believing it. I was imagining it. Hotter. Uncomfortable now. Too hot. Much, much too hot. Like grabbing the wrong end of a curling iron, my automatic response was to drop the scorching thing in my arms. But there was nothing in my arms. My arms were not curled in my chest. My arms were dead things lying somewhere at my sides. The heat was inside me. The burning grew and rose. It peaks and rose again until it surpassed everything I felt. I felt the pulse behind the fire raging now in my chest. And I realized I found my heart again. Just in time to wish I never had, to wish I'd embraced the blackness. While I still had the chance, I wanted to raise my arms and claw my chest open and rip my heart from it. Anything to get rid of the torture, but I couldn't feel my arms. I couldn't move one vanished finger. James snapping my leg under his foot. That was nothing. That was a soft place to rest on a feather bed. I'd take it now 100 times, 100 snaps. I'd take it and be grateful. The baby kicking my ribs apart, breaking her way through me piece by piece. That was nothing. That was floating in a pool of cool water. I'd take it 1,000 times, take it and be grateful. The fire blazed hotter, and I wanted to scream, to beg for someone to kill me now before I lived one more second in this pain. But I couldn't move my lips. The weight was still pressing on me. Was still there pressing on me. I realized it wasn't the darkness holding me down, it was my body. So heavy, burying me in the flames, chewing it. It was chewing there. From the way out from my heart, now spreading with impossible pain through my shoulders. in my stomach, scalding their way up my throat, licking my face. Why couldn't I move? Why couldn't I scream? This wasn't a part of the stories. My mind was unbearably clear, sharp by the fierce pain. And I saw the answer almost as soon as I could form the question. The morphine. It seemed like a million deaths ago we discussed it, Carlyle, Edward, and I. When Carlyle hoped there would be enough painkillers that would help fight the pain of the venom. Carlyle had tried with Emmett, but the venom had burned the head of the medicine, sealing his veins. There hadn't been time for it to spread. I kept my face smooth and nodded, thanked my lucky stars. Edward could not read my mind, because I've had morphine and venom in my system before. And I knew the truth. I knew the numbness of the medicine was completely irrelevant, while the venom seared through my veins. There was no way I was going to mention that fact. Nothing that would make him more unwilling to change me. I guess what I hadn't guessed was the morphine would have done this effect, that it would pin me down and gag me, hold me paralyzed while I burned. I knew all the stories. I knew Carlyle had kept quiet enough to avoid discovery while he burned. I knew that according to Rosalie it did no good to scream, and I hoped that maybe I could be like Carlyle, that I would believe Rosalie's words and keep my mouth shut, because I knew with every scream that I scraped, my lips would torment Edward. Now it seemed like a hideous joke that I was getting my wish fulfilled. If I couldn't scream, how could I tell them to kill me? All I wanted was to die, never to have been born. The whole of my existence did not outweigh the pain. It wasn't worth living through one more heartbeat. Let me die, let me die, let me die. And for the never-ending space that there's all that was the fiery torture of my soundless shrieks, pleading for death to come. Nothing else, not even time. So that made it indefinite. So there was, with no beginning and no end, one different moment of pain. The only change came when suddenly and possibly my pain was doubled. Lower half of my body didn't suddenly before the morphine. Suddenly, I was suddenly on fire too. Something broke the connection. Had been healed, knitted together by the scorching fire and flames. Endless burning raged on. It could have been seconds, days, weeks, years, but eventually time came to mean something again. 3 things happened, other than grew from each other, so that it I didn't know which came first. Time restarted. The morphine weight faded. I got stronger. I could feel control of my body come back to me in time passing. I knew it was when I was able to twitch my toes and twist my fingers into fists. I knew it, but I did not act on it. Though the fire did not decrease 1 tiny degree in its fact, it began to develop in a new capacity for experiencing it, a new sensitivity to appreciate separately with each blistering tongue of the flames licking through my veins. I discovered that I could think around it. I could remember why I shouldn't scream. I could remember the reason why I committed to enduring this unendurable agony. I could remember that, though it felt impossible now, that there was something that might be worth this torture. This happened just in time for me to hold on to the weight that left my body. To anyone watching me, there'd be no change, but for me, as I struggled to keep the screams and the thrashing locked up inside my body, where they couldn't hurt anyone else, it felt like I'd gone from being tied to the stake as I burned, to gripping that stake, to holding myself in the fire. It had been enough strength to lie unmoving while I charred alive. My hearing got clearer and clearer. I could count the frantic poundings of my beats of my heart marking the time. I could count the shallow breaths that gasped through my teeth. I could count low, even breaths that came from somewhere close beside me. These moved the slowest. I concentrated on them. They meant the most time passing, even more than the clock pendulum. Those breaths could pull me towards burning seconds towards the end. I continued to get stronger, my thoughts clearer. When the new noises came, I could listen. There were light footsteps. The whisper stir of air by the open door. The footsteps got closer, and the pressure against the inside of my wrists. I could feel the coolness of the fingers. The fire blistered away every memory of cool. Still no change. None. The lightest pressure of breath against my scorched skin. There's no scent of morphine left. I know. Bella, can you hear me? I knew beyond all doubt that if I unlocked my teeth, I'd lose it. I'd shriek and screech and growl and thrash if I opened my eyes. As much as twitch a finger, any change at all would be the end of my control. Bella, love, can you open your eyes? Can you squeeze my hand? Pressures on my fingers. I knew it was harder not to answer this voice, but I stayed paralyzed. I knew the pain in his voice now was nothing compared to what it could be. Right now, he only feared I was suffering. Maybe, Carlisle, maybe I was too late. His voice muffled as it broke on the words late. My resolve wavered for a second. Listen to her heart, Edward. It's stronger than even Emmett's was. Never heard anything so vile. She'll be perfect. Yes, I was right to keep quiet. Carlisle would reassure him. He didn't need to suffer with me. And her spine. Her injuries weren't as much worse as Esme's. The venom will heal her as it did Esme. But she's so still. I must have done something wrong. Or something right, Edward. Son, you did everything that I could have and more. I'm not sure I would have had the pessiness and the faith it took to save her. Stop berating yourself. Bella is going to be fine. A broken whisper. She must be in agony. We don't know that. She had so much morphine in her system. We don't know how that will affect her experience. A faint pressure on the increase of my elbow, another whisper. Bella, I love you. Bella, I'm sorry. I wanted to answer him so much, but I wouldn't make his pain worse. Not while I had the strength to hold myself still. Though all this was racking, fire went on burning me. There was so much space in my head now, room to ponder their conversation, room to remember what had happened, room to look ahead to the future, with still endless room left to suffer in. Also, room to worry. Where was my baby? Why wasn't she here? Why weren't they talking about her? No, I'm staying right here, Edward whispered, answering an unspoken thought. They'll sort it out. It's an interesting situation, Carlisle pondered, and I thought I've seen just about everything. I'll deal with it later. We'll deal with it. Something pressed softly into my blistering palm. I'm sure between the five of us we can keep it from turning into bloodshed. Edward sighed. I don't know which side to take. I'd love to flog them both. Well, later. I wonder what Bella would think. Whose side she'd take, Carlisle mused. One low, strange chuckle. I'm sure she'll surprise me. She always does. Carlisle's footsteps faded away again. I was frustrated by that there was no further explanation. Were they talking so mysteriously just to annoy me? I went to counting Edward's breast to mark the time. 10,900,433 breaths later, a different set of footsteps whispered into the room, lighter, more rhythmic. Strange that I could distinguish minutes, the minute difference between footsteps. Never been able to hear at all before today. How much longer? Edward asked. It won't be much longer now. See how clear she's becoming? I can see so much better, she sighed. Still feeling a little bitter? Yes, thank you so much for bringing it up, she grumbled. You would be mortified, too, if you realized that you were handcuffed by your own nature. I see vampires because I am one. I see humans okay because I was one. But these odd half-breeds, at all, I can see nothing. I've been experienced this blah. Focus, Alice. Right. Bella's almost too easy to see now. There was such a long moment of silence, then Edward sighed a new sound, happier. She really is going to be fine, he breathed. Of course she is. You weren't stagnant 2 days ago. I couldn't see right 2 days ago, but now that she's free of all the blind spots, it's a piece of cake. Can you concentrate for me on the clock? Give me an estimate. She sighed. So impatient. Fine, give me a sec. Quit breathing. Thank you, Alice. His voice sounded brighter. How long? Could they at least say it aloud for me? Was that too much to ask? How many more seconds would I burn? 10,000? 20 another day? 86,400? More than that? She's going to be dazzling, Edward growled quietly. She always has been, as Alice snored. You know what I mean. Look at her. Edward didn't answer, but Alice's words gave me hope that maybe I didn't resemble the charcoal briquette that I felt like. It seemed that I must be a pile of charred bones by now. Every cell in my body had been razor to ash. I heard Alice breeze out of the room, and swishing of the fabric moving against itself. Heard the quiet buzzing of the light hanging above the ceiling. I heard the faint wind brushing against the outside of the house. I could hear everything. Downstairs, Someone was watching the ball game. Mariners were winning by 2 runs. "It's my turn," I heard Rosalie snap at someone, then there was a low snarl in response. "Hey now, Emmett cautioned," someone hissed. I listened for more. There was nothing but the game. Baseball wasn't interesting enough to distract me from the pain, so I listened to Edward's breathing again, counting the seconds. 21,917 and a half seconds later, the pain changed. On the good news side of things, it started to fade from my fingertips and toes, slowly fading, but at least it was doing something new. This had to be it. The pain was on its way out. The bad news, the fire in my throat wasn't the same as before. It only wasn't on fire. I was now parched, dry as bone. So thirsty. Burning fire, burning thirst. Also bad news, the fire had went inside my heart hotter, and it got hotter. How was that possible? My heartbeat was too fast picking up. The fire drove in its rhythms a new frantic pace. "Carlyle," Edward called, his voice low but clear. I knew Carlyle could hear it if he was where in or near the house. Fire retreated from my palms, leaving them blissfully pain-free and cool, but it retreated to my heart, which blazed hotter than the sun, beating a furious new speed. Carlyle entered the room. Alice at the side. Their footsteps were so distinct. I could tell Carlyle was on the right, a foot ahead of Alice. "Listen," he told them. The loudest sound in the room was my frenzied heart, pounding with the rhythm of the fire. "Ah," Carlyle said, "it's almost over." My relief at the words overshadowed the excruciating and pain in my heart. My wrists were free, though my ankles were on fire, totally extinguished. "Soon," Alice said, agreed eagerly. "I'll get the others. Should I have Rosalie?" "Yes, keep the baby away." "What? No, no. What do they mean, keep my baby away? What is he thinking?" My fingers twitched in irritation, breaking through my perfect facade. The room went silent beside the jackhammering of my heart. All the breathing stopped. A second to respond. A hand squeezed my wayward fingers. Bella, love." Could I answer him without screaming? I considered that for a second. Then the fire ripped hotter through my chest, draining in from my elbows and knees. I better not chance it. "I'll bring the others right up," Alice urged, the edge in her tone. The swishing of the wind, she darted out. And then, oh, my heart took off beating like helicopter blades. The sound of a single substantive tone felt like it would grind through my ribs. The fire flared up in the center of my chest, sucking the last remnants of the flames from the rest of my body, to fuel the most scorching blaze yet. The pain was enough to stun me, to break through the iron grip on the stake. My back arched and bowed as the fire dragged me upwards by my heart. I was allowing no other piece of my body to rank as my torso slumped back on the table. It became a battle inside me, my sprinting racing hard against the attacking fire. Both were losing. The fire was doomed to have consumed everything, was combusted my galloping heart towards its last beat. The fire constricted and constraining inside that one human remaining organ. Finally, unbeatable surge. The surge answered the deep, hollow-sounding thud. My heart stuttered twice, and then thudded quietly again, just once more. There was no sound, no breathing, not even mine. For a moment, the absence of pain was all that I could comprehend. And then I opened my eyes and glazed above me in wonder. And I'm going to stop there, and tomorrow night I'm going to read new. Talk to y'all later, so move you out.